little late, so call the meeting to order at 7:02.
Don't break it.
Ms. Shiakari, would you like to lead the flag salute?
Sure, please join me in the flag salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Campos, would you like to take roll call?
Trustee Burdall.
Here.
Trustee Doggett.
Here.
Trustee Levin.
Here.
Trustee Shiakari.
Here.
Trustee Villalobos. Thank you.
Thanks. The district digitally records the audio portion of the meetings. The recorder is located in front of the board scribe. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. As a community service, Pacifica Community Television records and broadcasts meetings. Report out on closed session topics. The board met in closed session regarding conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, and we are allowing her to proceed and negotiate in one of those cases.
So Nook actually provided direction to settle the cases.
Thank you. So I needed the scripts.
Yep, there we go. Gave direction to settle the cases.
Gave direction to settle both cases. Let's see, public employee performance evaluation of the superintendent. No action was taken. And so approval of the minutes. Are there any questions regarding the minutes of June 5th, 2019? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 5th meeting?
A motion to approve the minutes of the June 5th meeting.
I'll second.
All
Oh.
in favor?
No, but you need to ask us. Okay.
Oh.
That's not in the script either.
It's not in the script, is it? Okay, so all in favor?
Yeah.
I believe.
You need to
Trustee Doggett,
abstain.
you're going to abstain since you weren't.
I wasn't there, okay.
That's those
Okay.
meetings. Okay, so can I have a clarifying vote then?
Aye.
All in favor? Board passes 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Approval of the minutes of June 12th, 2019. Are there any questions regarding the minutes of June 12th?
I do have a question. There's a funny edition of American Institutes for Research. Is that?
I'll look at the form of that. That's where Jesse was. He was physically located in that.
So that's showing his, got it, thank you.
All right. If there are no further questions, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 12th, 2019?
A motion to approve?
I will second.
No. All in favor?
Board passes 3-0. Thank you.
All right. Approval of the minutes of June 19th, 2019. Are there any questions regarding the minutes of June 19th, 2019? None? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 19th, 2019?
I move to approve the minutes of June 19th.
I will
I'll second.
Oh,
Okay, go
you can have
ahead.
it. All in favor?
Board passes 3-0. Thank you.
All right. All items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is not debatable and which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or the public so requests, any item shall be removed from this section and placed in the regular order of business following approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding the,
I would recommend that we pull the 10E personnel changes as there was a error that we'd like to repair.
all right, anything else? All right. So, do I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda with 10E being pulled?
A motion to approve?
I will second.
All right. Let's have a vote.
Board passes 4-0. Thank you.
So then we go to 10E.
Yeah.
Which is the personnel item. And so on your tables are the new and improved. And are there copies for the
Yes,
audience?
there are copies out on the
Okay,
table.
perfect. And so the error was, if we look at under 2 classified, A, resignation, and this is the correct amount. It's 0.12 FTE of the math paraprofessional.
And that was 0.8 before?
It was 0.8 before, and that was the error.
Okay.
It didn't make the agenda since we pulled it, so it's recommended that you approve the
Yeah.
personnel changes.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel changes?
I move to approve the personnel changes with the changes as delineated.
Okay, I will second to approve the changes with the modification. And can we have a vote? All in favor?
Board passes 4-0. Thank you.
Moving right along. Communications. This portion of the agenda is available to the public to address the board on any issue that is not on the agenda. The maximum time allowed for any speaker is 3 minutes. LSEA.
Hello, how are you? Hi, my name is Megan. I am president of LSEA, our teachers union, and we just are here today to welcome you, and we look forward to working with you. That said, over the past couple of years, we have reached out to our board members to try to set up some sort of routine meeting with members of the board, just so we can keep our lines of communication open throughout the year. So I will be reaching out to Laverne and hoping to get that process started, and if you could communicate our message to her as well, that we want to have a very successful year and touch base with you guys more regularly so we can just share what's going on your side and our side and have a good year. We look forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, CSEA.
I too would like to welcome everybody back. We too at CSEA look forward to working with everyone. We've had a tough summer. It's been a tough one. And I'm hoping that those problems that we've experienced improve. I understand there's a situation today that we need to address, but I'll take that up on Monday. But we look forward to working with the board and of course all of you people. And hopefully I'll see you back September 1.
Thank you. All right. People wishing to address the board. The first up I have is Jamie Warden.
Good evening. I am here tonight to represent AYSO. I'm sure most of you know what AYSO is. It's our in-town soccer youth organization. It's the largest organization for sports in town. We've been around for 41 years. We're currently using IBL, Odsted, and Ortega as the fields. Right now, our biggest concern is we have between 700 and 1,300 players each season. So that's a huge amount of Pacifica School District children. And our concern right now is the fields, the condition of the fields. We are trying to work on signing a contract for Odsted. So normally we don't pay for Odsted, we just sign a contract. We're trying to negotiate the water bill right now and take a portion of it. The issue with that is we're being told that everything is working just fine. Unfortunately, there's no grass at all, which is why a portion of my board is here tonight, not all of them, because we have 3 weeks until the season starts. And we don't have fields to actually play on. And we want to work with you guys. And I think our biggest concern is we can't get that contract signed because our legal team at Nationals will not sign that contract until we can agree that there's no issues with those sprinklers at Odstead. So with that being said, I will let my board speak their minds on the fields, and I just want to say thank you. I do like working with everybody. Josie's been great. I've been regional commissioner this is my 4th season. I started in 2016 when I was asked. I've been on the board for 8 years now. I've been involved with AYSO for 15 years. I've grown up in Pacifica. My mother's grown up in Pacifica. I've been on the PTOs at Valleymar, Ortega since, 2014. So I'm very involved in my community. And that's why I'm here. I'm not here to point fingers. I'm not here to argue. We want to work with you guys to have great fields. Because at the end of the day, it's not just for us, it's also for you guys as well. So, thank you.
Thanks. So next we have Margaret Davis.
Hello, my name is Margaret Davis, and I've got 2 kids currently registered to play in soccer at AYSO, and we're looking forward to it. Unfortunately, I'm a terrible public speaker, so excuse me if I start to cry, just ignore it. Anyways, we just finished PAL baseball season, and PAL on the side where the baseball have control of it. Beautiful field. Kids love playing there. But the other sides do not look like that picture in your background there at all. It's horrible. Ankles were getting turned. Kids were miserable. And the worst thing for me is going home and taking ticks off my kids. It's absolutely disgusting. We were all mortified, but we were there to root on our kids because they love baseball and soccer, of course. So I'm here as a parent concerned of the ticks, and the fields are just dry and horrible and not taken care of at all. And it's really obvious, and unfortunately there could be a heck of a lot more parents here talking about it if we advertised it, but we didn't want to do that unless we have, there's a lot of people out there very concerned about it. And I think the numbers are down in enrollment to play soccer because of the fields. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. So next we have, this looks like Michelle Gray.
You were able to read my handwriting.
That's right.
Congratulations.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Gray. I have 2 children in the Pacifica schools, Valleymar this year, so a kindergarten. We're so excited. We just came from Sunset Ridge, had a fabulous experience. And then my Ruth is going to go into 4th grade, and I'm also on the board, the PTO board at Valleymar. I've been there for many, many years. Very excited, my first year on the board for AYSO, but I've been with AYSO for 4 years now and coaching various leagues. So this year on the board, my responsibility is 114 little 6- and 7-year-old boys. And they're going to play at Ortega. So 6- and 7-year-old boys, shiny object. I have one of them easily distracted. They're all over the place. Someone's picking a flower. The other one is rolling around in the grass. And I am very concerned about the state of things at Ortega. So I've been at Ortega for a couple of years with my daughter when she was in that level. And it just gets progressively worse, right? So the fields are in really rough condition. We actually aren't able to practice. When I was coaching my daughter at Ortega, we would have to squeeze 3 of the groups onto one field because 2 fields you couldn't even go on. We weren't allowing them to have practices during the week because they were in such poor condition that it would ruin them for any chance for a Saturday game. So Ortega is a real concern for me, and so I'm very focused on these 114 little boys and their families, and it's a real issue out there. And then my daughter just finished a wonderful soccer camp at Odsted. And fabulous camp. It was one of the biggest camps they've had there. And, this is what we love in Pacifica, right? We love that we are local, that we get to use what we have available to us. And it was dirt. You could not find a piece of grass on that field, and I'm shocked. It was terrible last year to play on, and we had several girls who just got injured because the ball just skips. There's no grass to kind of grip on, and it's just deteriorated. I'm absolutely shocked that this is allowed in Pacifica. So I moved to Pacifica 16 years ago, and we're very happy we're here, but I've just seen this steady decline, and it seems that we're not able to get traction on how to improve it. There just seems to be a bit of a wall up about everything's fine, and it's not fine. I mean, just drive past these fields, and I think you would be shocked, and you wouldn't want your kids or your grandkids playing on them. So it's really about figuring out, we have 3 weeks to turn it around. We can actually get grass on these fields in 3 weeks. And we're very careful. We have wonderful parents and coaches that will help us. And if we need to move folks to another part of the field to let something else grow, they'll do it because they want to have a successful season. But we have to have immediate action to really turn this around because there's no way to salvage it, I think, once we launch. I can tell you I get questions all the time, both being on the school PTO and then they know I coach, that, well, who do I go and talk to? Who can I go yell at? Like, I'm worried about my kid playing in these Pacifica teams. And so we try and just say, okay, we're working on it, but it's tough. It's tough to keep getting those questions. Thank you.
Casey Fitzpatrick?
Corey.
Oh, Corey, I'm sorry. This one.
I think we're doing Dale.
I thought, did I lose Dale? I'm sorry. I know, that's why I was looking at you. I'm sorry. Oh,
There we go.
there you are. So Dale,
All right.
please, you have the. Lost in the shuffle, I'm sorry about that.
Hi, everybody. I know most of you. Dale Weideman. I live in the community. I've lived in the community for 35 years or so. Put 2 kids through schools. I'm here to talk to you about shared interests, right? One, and first, thank you. Thank you for coming to these meetings, looking out for the kids, looking out for the resources which take care of the kids. I know from real personal experience what kind of sacrifice this is, so thank you, really. I'm not here to beat you up. Shared interests. Number 1 is interest of kids. We just talked about that. Number 2, your organization, right, it provides education. We provide sport. We provide exercise. We provide growth opportunities for kids. Second is the schools. I worked hanging door hangers, recruiting every friend I had to pass the parcel tax. So the schools have more resources. I supported the school bond. All of the volunteers in AYSO have tremendously worked to support schools, the quality of schools, millions of dollars. Neither of those would have passed without this community organization. We are here to support schools and the quality of schools for kids. We volunteer our time for kids. Third is appropriate use of resources. We can't afford to waste our money. We can't afford to have the schools' money wasted. And right now, with the way fields are being maintained, there's a tremendous amount of waste. At Odsted School, hundreds of thousands of gallons of water that did not go on the grass to grow grass for the kids to play. So we can't support waste. We're willing to help support this district to pay for water on the fields, but not for waste. And I want you to direct district leadership to have a working arrangement that doesn't lead to waste. And the 4th shared interest, I think, is collegiality and professionalism. We have a group of people who've reached out to the district, trying to work cooperatively, meet, have appropriate professional communications, and that has not been happening in the way it should. So I'm asking you as trustees to ask the district to work with us in a professional and collegial manner. So it all boils down to better experience for the kids that we all care about, better support for the schools, because we will be there every time the school needs financial support, parcel tax or bonds. We're not wasting money. Good, careful usage of our resources and a good collegial, professional working relationship. So please, maybe it takes a work study. Should we suggest perhaps having a work study session about how sports teams and the district can work together more effectively, or actually agendize an item? Perhaps that would be a good idea. But let's find a way to work together more effectively than it has been. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Corey Fitzpatrick.
Actually, I have something for you guys to look at while I'm talking.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, I think somebody has to. Grab a picture, bring it up. Oh, I had. It's in my notes. Sorry.
Thank you.
So, my name is Corey Fitzpatrick. I am a stationary engineer. I have been in charge of the fields in Pacifica for Pacifica AYSO for the last 3 years. This is the first year that I have done absolutely nothing because I was told to not touch the fields. And as you can see in the picture in front of you, the fields are terrible. I have quite literally put my blood, sweat, and tears into these fields the last 3 years, and every single year we come back to the same thing. And it's always the same thing. We ask for the bare minimum and we get harassed in return. This year is pretty much the worst. But as you can see, the bigger problem right now is that the man that's in charge of facilities for this district is incompetent, is what it really comes down to. And if you read the email where he claims that the system is working perfectly on that field, and that he was on that field 2 days ago, and look at the field as those pictures were taken yesterday, we have a major problem. He's in charge of keeping my children safe inside the school, and he doesn't know that that field is not acceptable. What else doesn't he know? This type of behavior is unacceptable. Now, we have the third image on that is the meters, and it shows that 23,564 units of water have been used. That equates to 174,744 gallons of water in the last 2 months. Look at that field and tell me where that water went, because that's what it is. $5,000 worth of water missing because it didn't go on that field. Now, the other thing is, you add that $2,000 cage that somehow got put around the backflow preventer this past week, you're looking at $7,000 worth of waste on a school that isn't even being used. And a group of kids have to play soccer in dirt instead of grass. It's a failure of epic proportions, it's unacceptable, and it needs to be dealt with. It's the third year in a row that I've dealt with it, but this is the worst of the worst. And the waste has to be addressed. Somebody needs to be held accountable for it. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, we're going to move on to correspondence.
I do not have any correspondence.
People must be on vacation. Okay, Board Superintendent Communications. Who would like to start?
I can start if you'd like. Well, I think we were all on vacation, so there's not a lot to report other than the several school board members had the bonding activity the other night with Jefferson Union High School and San Bruno and San Carlos and South City, and all of us were trying, well, I was trying to bowl. Everyone else was bowling just fine. So just trying to start the year by getting everyone together and having more communication between the different districts. So other than that, we're just all getting back from vacation and ready to start the school year.
I will continue. In July, I attended City of Pacifica had a general plan meeting and at IBL, kind of an update. It was interesting. They said they're going to have quite a few more of these small get-togethers with more specific topics about the Pacifica General Plan and moving it forward. They did mention, the consultant they had did mention that the last time they'd updated the general plan was 20 years ago or something, and they had gone through the process, I believe they said in 2014, and for some reason it did not, either the city council didn't approve it or they didn't move it forward, so they're trying again. So that'll be interesting to watch and be a part of. I also attended a memorial event that was held at one of the school sites for a former Pacifica student who passed away recently. It was a lovely event, very moving. One of the things I came away from it thinking about is the importance of continuing our mental health, wellness programs for our youth, and our alcohol and drug prevention programs, curriculum. You know, when our kids leave us, it's high school, and then before you know it, they're kind of thrust into this young adult world where they have to make a lot of decisions. So I think those two curriculums and supports we give are almost probably just as important as a lot of our academics to keep our kids safe and well. And then, as Elizabeth mentioned, we had our North County School Board and Administrators Bowling Night, which, even though I didn't bowl, I really enjoyed because, again, the area that we're in, it does feel like sometimes the San Mateo County programs and supports often are more centered on our southern districts, and we're kind of left. So I do think that's a nice start for North County to also maybe come together and advocate a little bit more for our districts. So.
Thanks. I don't have too much more to add except for I am part of the Pacific Historical Society, and I reconnected with them recently at one of their rummage sales, actually, and met their president, just a matter of circumstance. I was helping her take something out to her car, and then we just started talking. We talked for about 45 minutes. I've sort of connected them with the district again, and they're a great resource, and they are willing to provide docents to come and speak to our classes about local history. And I guess the other plug that I want to put in is it's 250th anniversary of the Portola expedition, and they're going to be doing some pretty serious stuff. And I think Teacher Orientation Day is going to be August 16th, right? Correct. And so new teachers are going to be invited to go over to the Little Brown Church, to the museum, and learn about the resources that they would like to make available to us, including coming to our classes. So thanks for connecting with them.
I'd like to introduce Kai Doggett, our newest member. I participated in the new board member orientation, just to kind of catch her up to speed. She's been busy having her own meetings, but we had one and an opportunity to connect. The other thing I would like to talk about what our team has been involved in is that we had a Parent Engagement Institute at Sunset Ridge that included about 34 parents, teachers, classified staff, principals. And we still have to add some more members to our teams in terms of moving forward, but got great feedback, really very positive in terms of how do we work with parents. Parent engagement or family engagement is not something we do to families, it's something we do with families. And so we need a broader representation of parents that will be on those committees, but each school site will use the activities that we already have, so say back to school night or parent teacher conferences, and how to just kind of amplify that in terms of our academic partnering with parents. And then the last 2 days, all of the school site leaders and cabinet participated in the Art of Coaching teams, which is how do we engender trust, how do we help support people in doing their very best work, and how do we as leaders keep the organization moving forward. And again, so that was 4 great days that we spent together, both working in family engagement and the Art of Coaching teams, and I really look forward to seeing those things in place in the schools. Okay.
Well, I just got started, so I had my orientation with Heather, and I also met with Laverne yesterday, so I'm just learning the lay of the land right now, and this is my first board meeting, so thank you for having me, and I'm just going to learn as I go.
All right, as we all do. So we have a presentation on the PSD mandated reporter training program. So Maria?
Yes. Well, it's my pleasure to share with you a brief overview of how we train our staff, who are all mandated reporters, to fulfill their obligations under that law. So I've put together a few slides for you. I'll go over them with you. If I can figure out how this works. Oh, there we go. So just for a little bit of background, some kind of landmark moments since this first became law. We operate under a law that's called the Child Abuse and Neglect Reporting Act, and you'll hear it referred to as CANRA. It goes back, it was written into law in 1977, and that's the kind of the guiding law that mandates us to be mandated reporters. When the law was first enacted, the primary group of mandated reporters were medical professionals. And teachers kind of, and other folks kind of just were added on as over time. By 1984, teachers and other educators were added as another group, a large group of people who obviously come into contact with children and are in the position of spotting, recognizing, and reporting child abuse. And so that began a period of funds, grants that were made available in California. This is the most notable one, the Maxine Waters Child Abuse Prevention Training Act, or CAPTA, that went into effect in 1984. And this allowed, this provided grants to nonprofit child abuse prevention agencies all over California to train trainers to go out and train public school employees on how to recognize abuse and how to report it, and some of the other elements that we're required to know by law. So this was the very kind of most rudimentary form of training that was initiated. Today, we do our training online, so it's come a long way. But in those days, we literally had trainers that would come out to schools and meet with entire staffs or staffs of 2 or 3 schools in large groups. I did some training under that, under one of those grants back in the day, and I had an audience once of 500 people that I was training to do mandated reporting. So it's become a lot more sophisticated now and a lot easier, a lot more user-friendly for staff and less time-consuming. Shortly after that, it became part of the law that employers of mandated reporters must have the employees sign an acknowledgement that they understand that they are mandated reporters as a prerequisite to being employed. So in our process, in our HR onboarding process, that's one of the documents that that employees must sign. So those are kind of some 3 of the kind of landmark moments in the development of this practice. I thought it would be kind of fun for you to see just how many people, how this group has grown. As I said, originally it was mostly teachers, medical professionals and educators, but you can see what a long, long list of mandated reporters has developed over the years. Some of the ones that I find the most interesting include photo processors, which there were a couple in that list that I had to say, why photo processors? But if you think about it, there's a good reason why people who are the first to see a developed photograph would need to be a mandated reporter. Another one that I thought was interesting was animal control officers and humane society officers, which was also another kind of on my part. But that operates under the assumption that if an agent is called out because there's an abuse of an animal, there are some chances that there might be abuse, other kinds of abuse going on, and so therefore that group is also mandated to report. The list is quite long. I counted just on that list without going into all the subgroups of employees and categories of professions that fall under some of those headings. 48 different groups of people are mandated reporters. And so all of those people are required to have training on an annual basis to understand what their obligations are. Wrong button. There we go. Oops. Okay. Oops. Sorry about that. So in Pacifica, last year we began to offer this electronic version of training through Keenan Safe Schools. So at the beginning of every school year, just like right about now, all employees receive a little alert through email with a link that takes them to the website where they can take this online training. It's a very brief training. I took it myself again today just to refresh my memory of what's in it, and I was actually surprised once again at how much information they put into that 38 minutes. But I came away feeling like, okay, the basics are really here, and employees who take this training should feel pretty confident that they know what to do. At the end of the modules, there's an assessment to make sure that the basic ideas are, the employee has understood and grasped the basic underlying knowledge of the training. And if you pass, you have to pass with an 80% pass rate. We have put our own kind of time frame that the training must be completed within the first 60 days of school. That's not required by law, but it's something that we have required just because with things like this, like so many other things, it can be something that one tends to put off. And we really want employees to gain the knowledge or be refreshed of the knowledge right from the get-go at the beginning of the year. So they will receive their first invitation email and then a weekly alert, a weekly prompt that they need to complete the training. And I went back and looked, last year was the first year we did this, and I went back and looked and we had 270 out of 318 employees that took the training and passed it. So that's a good pass rate. And this year we're going to shoot for 100%. Let's see. The training is significantly shorter than the state training that's provided through the California Department of Education. However, Keenan worked with the state of California to ensure that all the required elements are a part of the training, and it is one of the courses that's approved by the CDE that can be used in lieu of the training that's available through the CDE. So I did put the link there for you to the CDE training in case you ever wanted to just go take a look and browse. It's open to the public and anybody can go look at it. It might be something of interest to you. These are the main components of the training that we do online. There's an introduction and an overview of the law, a little bit more detail to what I provided for you, but basically the same elements. It talks about the different types of child abuse that we need to recognize, including physical abuse, general neglect, severe neglect, sexual abuse, and emotional or mental abuse. It teaches how to recognize it by looking at behavioral indicators. It has it devotes a large amount of time to the next two topics, the behavior of child sexual abusers. It teaches us how to recognize the kinds of grooming, targeting behaviors of potential sexual abusers. And then it also devotes quite a bit of time talking about behavioral boundaries. And that's geared towards us as the professionals. How do we need to comport ourselves? How do we need to behave and interact with students in this teacher-student relationship so that there isn't any untoward or inappropriate behavior, even the appearance of it in the school setting. And I think that's a very valuable section as well. It talks a little bit about what the penalty is for failing to report. This is a very serious mandate. We do not have the option not to report. We cannot pass our obligation on to somebody else. Somebody can't do it for us. And if it should come to light that a child has been a victim and somebody failed to report who should have reported or should have known that they should have reported, there can be some serious criminal and civil liabilities involved in that. And then, the law requires that we are very clear about what those are. And then lastly, there's an assessment, a fairly easy assessment. Again, it just wants the whole training, the purpose of the training is just to make sure that we have grasped and understood the main components of the law so that we can fulfill our obligations. And that's about it for that. It's pretty straightforward. Oops. I started my career in child welfare, and so I'm really pleased that I can kind of have a little bit of my finger in this type of work still in a school setting. Do you have any questions?
I have a commentary toward your question is that board members are not mandated reporters. We have sent you the Keenan presentation accidentally 2 years in a row, so you do not need to complete it. And Maria was also going to look to see if there was any paperwork in the files of trustees that said you are mandated reporters, because we checked with county council prior to the meeting, and she assured us that you are not mandated reporters. So.
However, if you're interested in information, I think that website resource is a good one for you.
So, do you want to start?
Sure. You said about 278 folks passed, so it's not like you keep retaking it until you get 100%?
I don't think that's what that shows. I think it shows that some people just didn't take it.
So that was my question then, because it says must be completed within the first 60 days, so
we didn't have that requirement last year. We put that requirement in this year.
So what is going to happen if they don't complete it? They just keep getting
once we've offered
reminders?
it, if they fail to take it, we've met our obligation to provide the training. But the spirit of it is that we want everybody to take it. So now that we have a more kind of contained window of time where people, we expect people to take it, we have a lot, we have the rest of, the school year to really stay on those people who haven't taken it and make sure that their principals ensure that they take it.
Yeah, I would be concerned if they don't take it. And then on the components, I assume with behavior of child sexual abusers, does that include discussing human trafficking?
It does not go into human trafficking, but I suspect, because I know out in the field that's a big area right now that others are being trained in, others not educators, that I suspect that very soon that will be incorporated as well.
Okay.
Can I speak?
Yes, please.
Because that is connected to a board policy that is related to students being informed of human trafficking through their health education, which is required by, they say 7th grade, but any time between 6th and 8th grade that it has to be introduced to them there. When researching that, because that was a question that came up with regards to that board item, they had talked about how it will be eventually a requirement in the mandated reporting piece, but it is not now. So I guess they're moving towards it, but it's not part of the requirement now. But it did state that that was going to happen. They're moving towards that.
Okay. Thank you.
So I just have a couple of questions. I guess I either I was not listening carefully enough, or I just didn't understand when you said it, or a combination of these things. But when you did the background, it says 1985, it says verification of knowledge prior to employment. So what is that, and does that law really have any teeth if we're talking about?
They have to sign a piece of paper that says that they understand that they are mandated reporters. That's
That's what that is.
That's what that is.
Okay. And then we're talking about training, which would really inform them of what that entails, right?
So it's kind of a two-pronged thing. We inform them that this is a legal requirement, and then we provide them the training so they have the tools and the skills to do it.
Okay. Because the verification of knowledge prior to employment could be interpreted as something much more than what it actually is.
Yeah.
I think. So my other question is this only for public staff types, or it's just across the board? It's by job title, regardless of whether you're in the public or the private sector?
It specifically calls out public and private.
Gotcha. Okay, great. So then my last question is, to sort of keep track of this, it's up to the employer to track, or, I mean, you complete the training, where's the database that has it? It sounds like CDE probably has one, Keenan probably has one, and then...
We have access to that data through the program. So it'll generate a report, it'll tell me exactly who took it, who didn't, who passed it, who didn't. It has all that data as part of the program.
Okay, so we have one, and that's housed by Keenan, right? Or is it housed by the state?
No, by Keenan.
Okay, and then CDEs is housed by CDE, probably, et cetera, et cetera.
That's correct, and I'm sure there must be some link that would also allow whichever district. Most districts will not use the CDE training because it's many, many hours long. But I'm sure that there must be a link somehow that the districts would have that data.
So there's a centralized...
We don't even offer that option, we just offer...
Somewhere there's a centralized database that you can tell...
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, I'm just wondering.
Yeah,
because...
I think it's more probably if you get asked, you better be able to produce the evidence.
Okay, so that's my last thing. You get a certificate? Like
there is a certificate.
Okay, and you can print it out, or you can save it.
I actually brought one with me to show you.
Okay, show it off.
This is mine from today. It's just a
Great.
little, and actually I was thinking that maybe another next step for us would be to ask the principals to print these out, have the staff print them out so we can put them in their file.
Okay, great. So you're going to be taking some tallies of who has completed, and as you said, that the numbers that you collected, it's not just, it's sort of a measure of persistence, right? Because some of the people might have stopped at, question 10 on the test and then haven't gotten back to it.
I was actually pleased with the number, considering it was the first year that we did it, because not everybody has comfort level with using electronic or digital ways of doing things, and so I was actually happy with the number. I just we would all like to see it at 100%.
Sure. Okay, thanks so much for putting this together. Really important.
I was just going to say, along the line with the private school thing, and I'm sure there's not a central database because I was in private schools for 21 years and we had to take it, but it was through the Archdiocese and through everyone there, so I'm sure it was not linked out ways. And then also with the Boy Scouts of America has their own system and online training and so forth. But I don't think that any of them talk to each other. No. But you had to have multiple training. So if you were with more than one group, you had, in other words, taking it for the Archdiocese did not clear me with the Scouts, and the Scouts did not clear me. You have to take it for each position you have on there. If you have 4 jobs or 4 positions like that, or you're also a coach,
sure,
you're going to have to do each one.
Okay, thanks. All right, moving right along. District goals. The district values the goals provided in our Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP, and Strategic Plan. All of our district board agenda items are tied to these goals. 1 or more goals are listed in the description of each board agenda item. The details for each of those district goals can be accessed on our Agenda Online public page or by visiting the district website, www.pacificasd.org, under District Information, Board of Trustees. So, 13A, appointment of Measure O Independent Oversight Committee members, goal governance. Josie?
Okay, thank you. With the passage of Measure O last summer, we started forming our Bond Oversight Committee, and we did appoint a couple of members last school year, and then we had some further interest, and so we have 2 more members to provide to you tonight. But I'll kind of just go through a little bit of the background of what the Bond Oversight Committee is. It's a committee similar to the Parcel Tax Committee, where they provide oversight. They don't actually make the decisions of how the funds are to be spent. It's actually the Board of Trustees. You do make those decisions, but they have oversight after the expenditures occur. So once we start spending the bond funds, we'll start pulling the committee together, and we will have a review of what the expenditures are and how they fit into the facilities master plan and how they fit into the bond measure language, and we will review that with the committee. So it is required that we have a committee, and it should have 7 members on the committee, and thanks, Will, for bringing up the memo. On the first page, it shows you the composition of the committee. 1 member is from a business organization, a senior citizen organization, a bona fide taxpayers organization, which is very difficult to find somebody. I talked to some of the neighboring school districts, and they really can't find somebody in that role, but we still try to fill all the composition of the committee. We also want someone who's a member of the school district where they have a child enrolled in one of our schools. And if the specially reserved seats cannot be filled by volunteers, they do remain vacant until a qualifying volunteer is found. So we keep the advertisement open. We put an ad in the newspaper last summer. I hadn't put another ad in, but Suzanne and I did get some interested applicants. I also reached out to the senior citizen, Mike Perez, and one of his counterparts are kind of looking into their organization to see who they can recommend from the senior citizen organization, because that would help us cover these areas. Aside from the bona fide taxpayers organization, we would be able to cover the business and the school district membership. So the terms are 2 years or more with no more than 2 consecutive terms. And we're staggering the appointments. It just so happened that we appointed 2 people last summer, and we're asking the board to appoint 2 more people now, and so those would automatically be staggered appointments. And we will continue to ask for more members. I could do another ad in the newspaper to recruit more members, and ask the principals as they return to their school year to help with some of the advertising. So last year we appointed Linda Brocchini, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, and Dylan Paul, so that's Valleymar and Ocean Shore, and there was also some business representative with Dylan. And tonight we're asking the board to, and I did send the applications ahead of time, for Dennis Schillingberg, a business representative, and Ryan Paul, Ocean Shore and IBL, parent and business. There is one note that I want to make about Mr. Schillingberg's application. When he was checking the boxes under, what page is that? Under page 2. The second page? Yeah, thank you, Kathy. He put no under, are you willing to comply with the ethics included in the bylaws? And I did have a conversation with him, and he said that was a mistake. I didn't alter it on the attachment, but I did have that conversation with him. So that's a correction that he would like you to consider as you consider his application. I also did include the presentation by San Mateo County Council that we reviewed in detail the last time, and it is on the website if people want to take another look at Claire Cunningham's presentation of what is a bond oversight committee and how it's comprised. So tonight we're just asking you to review those 2 applications and consider appointing them to the bond oversight committee. They're not present here tonight, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and get the answers.
The only question, I just wanted to make sure with Mr. Paul, it did say no employees or officials of the district, and his wife is a teacher, so that's okay to have a spouse who is an employee of the district?
I didn't see anything where it couldn't be a spouse, but I can double check on that.
Okay.
There's an extra piece there that talks about if there's any expected if you'd have any connection or any sway over consulting or contracting that the district might have, but there's nothing that I saw in there.
Well, but on this it says no employees, so I just want to
No,
make
it says
sure.
no employees,
Yeah.
but I guess it was probably in the presentation as well.
Right.
It goes into a little more detail, saying, but that was all right by me. Do you have anything else on?
No.
That was it?
That was, I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure that we were
Okay.
covering that.
I have some concerns with Mr. Schillingberg's application. Well, I did notice the ethics, and I know that that's just a hiccup, and he was probably going too fast through the form, so, and he fixed that, so that's not a problem. The first item that he responded to is not complete. So that was kind of a problem for me. And then under his occupation, let me just see what the field is actually called here. My biggest concern is really he owns a business that does photography, and that's great. But he also put in that he is the pastor or a pastor at Lighthouse Pacifica. And, well, technically that's not really a business. But if you go to their website, they do look a lot like a business. Beside the fact, I think that there's a conflict of interest here. I mean, they're one of our tenants. And he's the
Not
pastor.
anymore.
What's that?
They're not tenants anymore.
Oh, they're not. Okay, then forget what I said. They moved.
Well,
If they've
they
moved.
had to because Spectrum's moving in.
Right.
Great. Never mind. So I rest my case. So I guess my biggest concern was that was my biggest concern because I thought there was going to be a conflict of interest there. So mea culpa. But I guess I'm just a little concerned with somebody who fills out a form so quickly and doesn't complete arguably the most important question. And then just sort of stripes down the no column and hits no. So it's just a little concerning to me about that. And I quite frankly, I know it's not a competition between the two. We want to fill seats, but the second form read much better to me as well. I'll just leave it at that.
I think if I can give some input on those comments, I understand what you're saying. I did serve at one point on, I don't know, one of the parcel tax oversight committees as a parent. And I think I'm not as concerned about that because I do know how it operates. And as Josie said, it's not a decision-making, you know what I
absolutely realize. I realize that. I mean, they're there to advise, to review and advise.
To review what has been spent and to make sure it fits the language.
Sure.
And I actually sort of thought, because he starts it with being concerned with increase in tax revenue, I thought that's actually a really good person to have involved in the workings because they're coming to the table with that kind of concern, and hopefully they will be reviewing and saying, oh, you are using this money to better the district, you are supporting the students, you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. And when we win over that group of people, I think it just spreads goodwill and it spreads people's faith in the district.
I'm all for fiscal probity. Don't get me wrong. I mean, and if there's somebody who's really going to be, going to be an eagle on how the money is spent, I'm all for it. I guess I was just wondering about the level of detail here, and just I'm just wondering if somebody's really serious about this and they're filling out a form so quickly, that raises a red flag for me personally. And I don't know this person at all, so I have no idea. Kai?
I'm just curious, are Ryan and Dylan related?
I do not know.
I was wondering that too.
Because the employment contract says that his wife is at Ocean Shore. It just, I would like to know if they're related. I don't know if they're married or if they're a couple. To me, it's just one of those things. I don't know if we want two people from the same household on the committee. So that would be a question.
So So I can, I don't know if they're related, but I know that he does have, I just don't know.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm just curious, because it's both
Paul.
connected to Ocean Shore, the same last name.
Sure.
They are not married to each other. I suspect that they are related.
They're relatives?
Either brothers or,
Yeah.
but I don't know that to be true.
Yeah. I'm just curious
Okay.
because if it's the same family, not that there's, I'm glad the family wants to be involved, but it seems a little stacking the board. If they're not related, then it's not an issue.
So would you like us to investigate those, the family relationship? And the second question was, Jesse, jog my memory?
I don't think that there's really any question on my part. It's all cleared up because I didn't know that Lighthouse has already moved out or is moving out, which is satisfying.
So should we bring both of them back or just approve one, or what do you want to do?
The ethics question is a red flag for me too. Going through that form so fast, that concerns me. I'm not comfortable yet with that.
So if they are related, for example, if they are brothers, then we will not bring him back for your consideration.
Okay.
If they are not related, then we could bring him back
Okay.
to the next board meeting. Is that?
So for Pastor Schilling, is that, should we request that he fill out a new accurate form, or are you ready to?
I mean, how
Do
did
you
he
have
complete
additional
it?
questions about?
Yeah, it might be good if he could complete it, and he should feel free to edit it as he wants, but it would be good if we could have complete answers to
Yes.
these questions.
Okay. And I would like it in writing about that he's going to
Abide by
abide by
the, he's willing to.
Yeah, because I kept looking at it thinking, well, I don't think we can even approve him then.
Well, no, I mean, that would be,
honest.
that would be automatic disqualification, right?
Right, that's,
So-
yeah.
You can't have it on the record.
Who's the pastor that didn't pass ethics?
It's like,
Do you want to start having that conversation?
So we will investigate both of those and bring those back
Okay.
to the 28th.
Added that
Okay.
as a
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josie.
Okay, so we're not going to ask another questions there, or we're not going to vote on this. So next, 13B, 6th through 8th grade science curriculum adoption. LCAT goals number 1, number 2, and number 3. Will, Mr. Lucy.
Hi, everybody. We'll start from the end, I guess.
It's a quick one. Quick, speedy.
It's running now.
Sorry, give me a moment here. I think that. Sorry about this. All right. So this, I'm going to be going through some slides here, but this is with regards to the 6th through 8th grade science curriculum adoption that we are bringing forth to you for recommendation. So the goal of this presentation is to inform you of the science curriculum selection process and all the entire process that came to the point of an informed decision that was made with regards to the adoption of the curriculum to support implementation of the NGSS by applying the guidelines in this California state framework. So just for a little bit of a background, we've, within the last couple of years, there's been a shift in science to NGSS, the NGSS adoption. And so this started back in 2015, and that's when the district committee was put together and created a district plan. You have the attachment to the district plan. It's fairly lengthy. and it's been reviewed, it's been revised as the years have gone through, but it was a 2020 district plan. So that plan was created, and then the next thing was that there was a committee that attended the materials fair at the San Mateo County Office of Education, which is a common practice when they're doing any kind of adoption, any kind of curriculum area. There's a fair that you attend that has all of the different curriculum vendors there. So it allows you to review the materials as a committee and start the process of the selection process with regards to the adoption. So there's also this toolkit that's provided that gives sort of a pathway or direction to how a district adoption committee reviews materials. So they followed that toolkit, and through that use of the toolkit, there were some of the adoptions from various committee meetings. Throughout various committee meetings, there were some adoptions that were field tested and pilot tested or piloted, that those included with regards to science, the Amplify curriculum, which was field tested, the TCI, which was piloted, and Discovery, which was also piloted, and FOSS, which was the NGSS version of the FOSS, and then the Houghton Mifflin Hardcourt, which was also piloted. Yes?
Just a really quick, naive question.
Yeah.
How do you distinguish between a field test and a pilot? What the difference?
The field test is it's more widespread. It's more classroom, more teachers are involved in a field test. So it's like, so if for a particular grade level, it might be an entire grade level.
Okay.
We'll field test that. A pilot might be specific just for a class or a selection of teachers, a variety of different grade levels.
Thanks.
And so the science specialist led this process. Siva Steele, who was our science specialist, one of our earlier science specialists, she was a science specialist for 2015, 2018, and then our present science specialist, which is Sarah Watanabe, who was for 18, 19, and is presently our science specialist. So they led these committees and led them through this process. These committees, they discussed these various curriculums with the committee, with the outcome of the committee, and the outcome of all these field tests and pilots and those discussions came the recommendation for the Houghton Mifflin Hardcourt adoption. The committee members in 1819 came from all the schools with middle school students in the middle school grades. I know that this was a question that came up. Alex is not on here, but Alex was, Alejandra, Uribe, and Tony were from Cabrillo. Gwendolyn Holden was from IBL, along with Janice Miller, were teachers at IBL. Becky and Katie Stearns were from Ocean Shore, and Samantha, Kathy, and Jackie were all from Valamar. So all the middle schools were represented on the committee, and the various different grade levels were. The Houghton Mifflin curriculum adoption, the committee's rationale of why Houghton Mifflin Hardcourt, it had good depth, there was a good quality of text, real world phenomena in each unit. It incorporated evidence notebooks, which was important to the committee that it had that piece, and the textbook integrated into workbooks to allow for annotation. So those were the why they felt that this was a good adoption. The other piece is it was decided not to go to an 8-year adoption, and the reason being is that when going through these various curriculums, a lot of them were still kind of in the process of being really finalized. So there's this idea not to push to stick with one for 8 years and have the option of going through an adoption process again in 4 years. It might be just a renewal of this particular program again, if they're happy with it. But just to have that, because the sense I got from the committee members is that some of the other curriculums had stronger points, had stronger elements than Houghton Mifflin Harcourt did, but Houghton Mifflin Harcourt seemed to hit all the areas where the committee felt like were solid elements that they had, where the other ones, they may have had a strong point in one area, maybe real world phenomenon, but then were weak in all the other areas that doing it. So that was part of the reason why they didn't want to commit to a completely an 8-year adoption. So we settled on a 4-year adoption. The total cost, around $132,500 was the total cost. That's exactly to the cents from the quote. It's a 4-year adoption. Professional development and technical services are included in that cost. We negotiated a payments over 2 years. So instead of paying the entire bulk amount, which would have been very hard for us in the present financial situation, we created this 2-year payment plan, which was in 1920 we'll pay half, and in 2021 we'll pay the other half. The H&M, again, the H&M curriculum adoption elements of the curriculum is there's a teacher subscription, a printed teacher's edition, assessment guides, and digital management system. There's student editions, both print textbook and workbooks, and also an online subscription. This also allowed us to only have to purchase one set of textbooks instead of having a set for home and a set for school. They have the online version, so we didn't have to include in the pricing a second set for all of, so that they had a home. They have an online for home use. Thank you. There's designated ELD student notebooks for EL students, so that was another element that was part of it. Multilingual glossary for our EL students, and the consumable materials kits for labs and activities. That's where a major portion of the cost is those consumable materials. Some of those consumable materials, they're included in the cost, and so they're included over the entire 4 years. Others, you have to replenish every year, but for the most part, the main consumable stuff, you get enough for 4 years worth. So any questions? Yes?
Does the curriculum cover climate change?
Yeah, the curriculum covers climate change because it's directly aligned to NGSS. And I actually looked this up. There is a NGSS has a middle school earth science 3 to 5, and that one is based on asking questions to clarify evidence of factors that have caused the rise of global temperatures over the past century. So all the curriculum included is in there in order to be NGSS aligned, and it's part of Houghton Mifflin Harcourt.
Okay. Thank you.
So I have just kind of an off-the-wall question. It's not specific to Houghton Mifflin at all, but clearly they have certain accommodations in here for EL students. Do they have anything like that for special ed students at all?
Yeah, there is a. I'd have to go
and
back.
when I say they, I mean across all the curriculum
Yes.
that you've looked
Yes.
at, not just Houghton Mifflin.
There is for each, for all of the ones that they reviewed, there is a accommodations and modification piece there. And then there's also within the online version, there's ways, because, it's dependent on what that specific need of that special ed student is. So there's a way of manipulating the online version to be more appropriate because of a particular student's disability.
So I'm just wondering if the committee that reviewed all of these, they probably had some big rubric that they were working with here, but if that weighed in to their decision.
It's part of the kit.
Well, it weighed into the committee's decision on which to go.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And it's also part of when they're going and they're rating a particular set. I saw the kit, and the kit has elements of is it going to be appropriate for special ed students? Can it be accommodated, modified, or is there designated supports embedded in this in that curriculum? So it's part of literally the kit that they use for reviewing all of them. But they didn't, I didn't get any feedback. I didn't sit on the committee myself, but I didn't get any feedback specifically about how this particular Houghton Mifflin did for special ed, but I know that it had to be checked off in the box that it had to be inclusive of it.
Okay, thanks.
So I have one more quick question. On the consumable materials kits, are these replacing the FOSS kits, or do we still use those at all at the sites?
Presently, we've been using the FOSS kits, but we're using them now in the K-5 area, but they were used in the 6-8. This will replace those things because the consumable kits go directly with how the curriculum is being presented.
Okay. Thank you.
Exciting.
So this is up for a recommendation.
It is. Okay. So if there are no more questions, do I have a motion to adopt the Houghton Mifflin Hardcore Science Curriculum for grades 6 through 8?
All motion? Adopt?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Board passes 4-0. Thank you.
So item 13C, tentative agreement between Pacifica School District and the Classified School Employees Association, CSEA, for the 2018-19 school year. Goal, operations. This is Maria and Josie.
Well, we're both very happy to report that we have reached an agreement with the Classified School Employees Association. The memo lists the different things that we worked on all throughout the year in negotiations, and including that we reached an agreement of 2% salary increase effective July 1st of 2018.
Okay. Are there any questions regarding the tentative agreement between PSD and CSEA? No? All right. Do I have a motion to approve the tentative agreement?
Move to approve.
I will second that. Cool. Do I get to motion as well, or second,
Presidents
or not?
never have.
Oh, I'm sorry. So
That's why we throws us.
Kathy, please. If you still want to, I'm sorry. I'm not used to wearing this hat, having all this power.
I don't know
Sorry.
if you can or can't.
Right.
Yeah.
We're just used to,
Okay, well,
stepping on each other's toes.
now that we have both motions, or a full motion, let's vote. So,
Board passes 4-0. Thank you.
all right, 13D, tentative agreement between Pacifica School District and Laguna Salada Management Association for the 2018-19 school year. LCAP operations, and it's Ms. Lydia and Peterson.
Thank you. Along those same lines, we are also asking that the board approve a 2% salary increase to the what's called the LSMA, which is the Laguna Salada Management Association, for the 2018-19 school year. In previous years, we've also brought forth to the board, it's somewhat of a Me Too language because the management benefits are capped at a flat cap going back to the 2014-15 Kaiser two-party rate. And in prior years, they have asked for the differential between the increased cost for benefits, but in this past fiscal year, Kaiser actually went down a small percentage, and so we're not including that in the request this year, but just to kind of give you that information as background as well.
So are there any questions? Any discussion? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the tentative agreement between PSD and Laguna Salada Management Association?
I'll motion to approve.
Since I wasn't in the negotiation.
I will second.
All right. All in favor?
Board passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 13E, superintendent contract, compensation. Goal is operations, and again, it's Ms. Gavidia and Ms. Peterson.
Well, last but not least, we also recommend that you approve an increase in the superintendent's contract per the employee agreement. In her contract, it states that she will receive the same salary increase as other management does. And so we recommend that you approve that.
Any discussion or questions on this? No? Do I have a motion to approve?
I will motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Board passes 4-0. Thank you.
All right. Item 13F, outdoor education overnight field trips approval. LCAP goals numbers 1, 2, and 3. Mr. Lucy.
So what I put in front of you is the recommendation for the board to approve the outdoor education overnight field trips. This is something that happens every year for lucky fifth graders across our district. I used to be a fifth grade teacher, so I used to take the kids to outdoor, and I loved that week. I was one of the crazy ones. Usually you don't love that week, but I loved it. Anyway, so getting sidebarred here. So this is a recommendation to, in one swoop, approve all 5 of the outdoor ed, and they're listed there on the memo, the dates of the field trips.
Funded by our parcel tax.
Discussion?
So the only question I have with outdoor education, I'm very proud that we can send all of our 5th grade students. I'm just curious why this isn't just on consent like our overnights usually are.
That is very interesting because I thought the same thing when this came up. In fact, I was rushing to get it on because I didn't realize that I had to have it on this part. So I guess in a roundabout way, I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. Oh.
You do?
Suzanne.
Yes. Thank you.
So it was something that the former superintendent thought would be appropriate to put on district business and not just on consent. And so that's why the shift was to district business from consent for this particular item, not for the regular overnight field trips.
But you don't know why that shift was made?
Because it was parcel tax?
I'm sure
Probably.
it's to recognize the citizens of Pacifica for their support of. And the other part that's really unique for Pacifica is that we pay for every single 5th grader.
Right.
It's not with need-based, and that's a little different than other districts, and I'm sure it's wanting to shine the light on that, and highlight that.
That makes sense.
That does make sense. Thank you.
So before we do vote on this, could you just give me a little description of what's in store? What venue at La Honda? What's this going to look like?
Yeah. So, what the field trip is?
Yeah.
Yeah, La Honda. So it's all the 5th graders. They go up, and in fact, at least when I went up there, and I think it was possibly the same, the teachers go up, but there's no parents that go along. There's naturalists up there, and the naturalists run the program, and those poor 5th graders or fortunate 5th graders are busy from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, but all good stuff, all fun stuff. And I remember, when they would get off the buses or the transportation, they'd have to carry their own gear to their cabins. And that was, it's nature-based, but they learn a lot of social, emotional stuff. They also learn many stuff across the different curricular areas. Not just science, but most importantly, these are students, are children that are at the age that they are changing physically, and they're changing kind of like their social awareness, and I've had students that has been on me that their complete personalities change from the beginning of that week to the end of that week. They come back different people, and you get a better understanding as a teacher of what a deeper understanding of those students. Most of the time, those are kind of eye-opening areas of it. So, I see the benefit is yes, there is curricular knowledge. There is, we live on this earth and this planet's very delicate, that type of learning, but there's also this social emotional, and there's this massive connection that you get with that. It's an extraordinary, I don't know a fifth grader that I've taught that doesn't think that that was one of the best things that they ever did in elementary school, of the ones that I've talked to. And I've been on it, I guess, now, it was about 8-9 years that I was on that trip every year.
My daughter did it last year, and it's probably the first time that so many kids have been away from their parents. They're not allowed to use any electronic devices. They can't call home. You have to send a letter before your child leaves so that they get it while they're there. The environmental aspect of the education that they get is great. They also have all these clubs they get to join while they're there, like we Pete Outside Club, we lit the something club. They come back so excited. They also come back very filthy. So, so there's so much joy and glee in this program. That, my daughter, she was in a split 4th, 5th grade class when she was in 4th grade, and so all the 5th graders left, and they came back all excited, so she was excited the following year. She went last year. It's a really great program. So.
And you don't have to kiss Banana Slug.
Right, there is.
There's
Kiss
that
the Banana Slug.
when they get up
There's
there,
a bunch of
they-
clubs, she joined them all.
Great. Well, so on that note, let's vote. Who's going to motion?
I will motion.
I will second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Board passes 4-0. Thank you.
All right. Item 13G, fourth quarter Williams uniform complaints, goal operations. Ms. Peterson.
Okay, this is an information item that we bring to you quarterly as a requirement of the Williams lawsuit. We report if there were any complaints in instructional materials or textbooks, the condition of the facilities, or in teacher misassignments, and teacher vacancy or misassignment. And I'm happy to report there were no complaints for the last quarter.
Great. Thank you. It's good news. Item 13H, Pacifica School District Board of Education Trustees 2019 Committee and School Assignments. Goal governance. Superintendent?
Okay, so we have a new member and also a new school year. So in the school year is when we pick school assignments, so that is a natural piece. And then because we have to fill some of the slots that were vacated by Trustee Gould, we want to have a slight conversation. So trustees, please go to your board member assignments. And I think that our clerk, Ms. Shiakari, may have some information around school assignments.
I do. So Laverne, since she couldn't be here, sent me her preferences, but she's very willing to not get everything she's asking for, but just to include her in the conversation. She had Linda Mar Education Center as her assignment, and she said she would be very interested in doing Ocean Shore this year. She's never done Ocean Shore. I had Ocean Shore last year and a few previous years, so I am very happy to trade with her or to let her have Ocean Shore unless somebody else is
Feeling Ocean Shore-y?
Feeling they need to. But Kai, just as a side note, this doesn't mean that nobody else can go to the events. It's just to cover,
Make sure someone's going.
Right.
I'll just say, because I'm familiar with Sunset Ridge, and that was Trustee Levin who left, I'm fine with that because my daughter went there.
So you're saying that you would like it?
I would like it.
It's Jesse who's there. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So Andrea
Yeah.
Gould left.
So Gould left, right.
Yeah, so
I'm fine with going there unless you you know.
I love it, but you can definitely have it as the designated board trustee,
You
and
can
then,
have it this year.
This year.
and then I will,
Kathy would like to have that.
and then I might tag along. You might see me there
Yeah.
at
Yeah, I mean,
some
I
events.
just, you know, because that's where
Part
I
of it's
was,
to get to
even
know
though my
other-
daughter's at IGL this year, but
Part of it's to get to know other schools too.
yeah.
That is that might be a nice place to start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
So I'm happy to take Lindamar. But you need an assignment, right? Or are you going to stick with Cabrillo?
I'll stick with Cabrillo, and then, you know, I can double up on whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say I can. It's been a little while since I've actually. Do you?
So Ortega.
I mean, IBL is open.
I've done IBL. I don't think I've done Valimar. Did you want to do Valimar?
I've been there a couple years, so I can do IBL.
Okay. Why don't I take Valimar then?
Okay.
IBL and Ortega is what it looks like it's open.
Oh, no, I'm taking IBL.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Elizabeth's going to take.
Did Laverne want to stay at Ortega? Sorry.
I think
Laverne
with
had a
the
preference about that.
She was.
So I'm happy to take Ortega as well, but if Laverne wants it, I guess it depends on who wants to.
Right.
Right.
She said she's happy keeping it, but I don't know if she meant, I'm not sure if she wanted to have it or not. I think she was trying to cut back a little bit this year.
She's not going to be president anymore, right?
Right, that's true.
But she's working now. so.
Unless you guys don't vote me in.
So it's Kathy who has two.
Well, one's Lindamar, so that's, they just have a few events. I mean, they don't have as many events as the older schools.
Well, should we just, do we have to decide this now, or should we wait till Laverne's here to see?
We can bring it back next week,
Yeah.
or at the end of the month to
Just to finalize.
Okay.
finalize that.
Yeah.
For the school sites, I know they really do appreciate having a trustee that they can connect with and to see regularly at their events. Routinely, I hear about how much they appreciate the support of the board, so.
Good.
Right now, I'll plan on, so for the back to school nights.
Oh, so
Should
wait
we-
until you see the schedule we've.
I
Yeah.
have some comments on that. but
Okay.
I'll wait till we talk about
But in other words, can I,
Very strategic.
can I shift
strategic.
my
Have a sign
calendar
up
to
first,
IBL?
and then-
In other words, can I shift my calendar from the, except IBL is the next one.
IBL is the next one.
So if I can put
Yeah,
that on
that's
my
true.
calendar now,
Yes.
that would help me out if I knew tonight.
Yeah, because they didn't have anybody, so
Yeah.
you might as well.
But I'm better than nothing is what you're saying.
Okay, moving on.
So then in the board committee section is that allowing Kai to sign up for a few things, but there are also some that people may want to shift out of responsibilities, may want to shift into responsibilities. Some of the ones like there's one around San Mateo, governing school boards representative to the county committee on school district organization. Like that's a very specific kind of one-time only. So
I know, again, that Laverne was interested in going off the strategic plan committee.
Okay, committee?
Yes, and she was interested in joining the CPAC committee. I've been on CPAC for 5 years now, so I'm very happy to let
See, I can't.
Laverne.
Okay, great, because I can't trade, because I'm already on the LCAP.
Right.
Okay. So you're coming to LCAP?
No,
Is that what you're
CPAC. she said. Or
No.
Oh.
No?
No.
You're giving up, you're trading CPAC out for LCAP, is that what you're saying?
No.
Or not?
I'm
Okay.
just giving Laverne.
CPAC, gotcha.
CPAC.
Okay. Sorry.
LCAP, I was gonna say LCAP might be one that Kai may want to consider without putting you on the spot in terms of being both a parent and a trustee.
I'm okay with that. Strategic planning.
So we should pencil you in there.
So, okay.
Yeah? Okay, great.
I'm happy to stay on the audit
Um,
unless somebody else is just.
No, I'll join you on the audit. I'm fine with that.
Well, that'll be an easy one for you.
We'll be auditing that.
The wellness committee, is that?
The Wellness Committee did not meet last year, but they will meet this year, probably twice.
I think Laverne was also interested in no longer being on the joint articulation.
Okay. That could be interesting. I consider doing that because
Okay.
it could be interesting.
I'd be interested in that as well, if you want some company.
I think
So
we
you're
can trade
like-
off, yeah.
You're like on 5 different committees.
I'll stop.
That one is, we have 3 a year, and I think Laverne's point to that was that we don't always need 2 committee members, but we did talk about the helpful what do you call it? You called it helpful redundancy.
Healthy redundancy.
Healthy redundancy.
So we don't both have to be there at the same time.
Correct.
So it can be.
And I think, I don't even know if we should still have Library Advisory Council on here because they meet the same nights as school board.
I don't know why my name's down there because I never.
Yeah, you did. After I went off, you said you thought it was interesting. You thought it would be interesting, and I said, even though it's the same nights we have school board.
So that's why I
meetings.
never went to it,
Right.
right? Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
So I actually,
So be really scared if I said, oh, it was a great meeting. There'd be something really wrong.
I have a phone call into Kevin, it's past my 8:30 bedtime, but,
Woodhouse.
Woodhouse, yes, and around that, whether, because we can't, I mean, it's, they're enough different, but just our consistency, and the high school district has a member on the board, so perhaps they don't need us. We just leave that one empty, bless you.
And the Education Foundation, since I've been off their board, I have not been attending, so I don't know if my name should be there anymore because since I'm no longer one of their board members.
Oh, I see. So you felt that. I don't know, I think for consistency's sake, it's probably good for Elizabeth and I to stay on the Workforce Housing Committee.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You still need somebody for facilities master planning. Right? Or we don't need somebody, but.
Oh. What's with you?
Advisory.
You need someone there.
That one I see is like maybe as we start to build the field at, that, it'll just be very situational, project-based, maybe 1 or 2 meetings. So, did I hear you say Elizabeth? Yes? Or
I can if you need another person or if Kathy doesn't.
I don't need to do that. I was going to say I could probably do the governing board representative, which looks like we didn't have anybody on it.
So you want off the
I'll go.
facilities?
I don't even remember doing that.
Oh,
Yeah, you-
Facilities.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
you
you were.
remember the big plan?
I went to so many
It was
meetings
months-
last year.
It was a long year.
months of your life.
It was
and
a
you
long
never-
year. So the governing board
Did you
used to
want
be
to-
Carolyn, or it used to be Andrea Gould was on that. And that's the one.
The governing board.
Yep. Did you say yes to
Yeah, I
that?
can do that. So is that down at Redwood City?
I think so, typically.
Are you
Okay.
keeping track of that?
I'm right.
I do for the most part. San Mateo County School Boards Association, you're still on that?
Yeah.
We don't need to have a second person on that, do we?
No, but if anybody wants to tag along, then it's more than welcome.
You know, I don't I think it's good we're gonna bring these back because Laverne had told me a few, but I don't know how many she wants to go on. I mean, she said that she might be interested in doing Kent, but I don't know if I don't know if that was instead of CPAC, so maybe we do need to sort of check with her. Because I don't want her to feel like she didn't get on committees, but I don't know.
feel with August, it's like
Yeah.
it's a slow start.
Yes. Okay.
Good, thank you.
Nobody wants to do PEF with me? At all?
I mean, I go to the events, but I don't go to attend the meetings anymore.
I don't think.
Which I don't know that you needed to attend the meetings anyway.
But that might be
Most
a
of us
good-
will be at the events with you. That's
Sure.
true.
That's true.
Make sure I don't get in trouble.
You can come to January Jazz.
Okay. So.
Thank you. We'll bring that back for the 28th.
All
Read
right.
the changes we mentioned, so we don't have to remember them.
I think we got most of them.
Yeah, so we will not vote on that.
We will not vote on that.
Okay, so item 13I, resolution number 2019-0807A, board compensation for missed meeting, goal governance.
Let's see, it's recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the resolution for board compensation for the missed meeting. Off the top of my head, I don't recall which one it was.
May 29th?
May 29th. Oh, it was Laverne, was it her daughter's
Yes.
high school graduation? Are there any questions regarding the board compensation for missed meeting? Oh, sorry.
That's all right, I was gonna say it in not as good of a voice as you. So I have no questions whatsoever. Does anybody else have any questions about it?
Nope.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2019-0807A, board compensation for missed meeting?
How much did you approve?
I will second.
All in favor?
Board passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thanks. Here we go. 14, board bylaws, board policies, and administrative regulations. 14A, May 2019 manual maintenance, 0000-1000 series, first reading.
Just as a highlight is the charter school authorization is around reflecting the new laws that were passed, I believe, in January around charter schools. It does not currently apply to us, but it could, and so that's important. And then just updating regarding the complaints concerning district employees, and on both the administrative regulation and the board policies on both of these, we're recommending that we use the CSBA sample because they're legally compliant.
Okay. Discussion? I have one point on this, on the charter school, BP 0420.4. So I'm not sure if how required the language is, or if we can deviate from it at all, but on page 3, it talks about our approving a charter petition, and the wording goes, the board shall approve the charter position if doing so is consistent with sound educational practice. In granting charters, the board shall give preference to, and there's some crossed out, schools best able, and it says petitions that demonstrate the capability to provide comprehensive learning experiences for students who are identified by the petitioner as academically low achieving. I have a problem with that. I think that it should be up to us to determine who we feel is low achieving in this district, and not a governing board of a potential charter school who's going to put forth this petition. So I would opt to put in some language that might be a little bit different and say something like this, instead of the four students who are identified by petitioner as academically low achieving, something like 4 students who are deemed to be low achieving according to standards set by the board.
Is that legal for us to do?
That's a good question.
So what we do with this, since it's in the ed code, is we probably will just consult quickly with, I probably, this is not the only board that has brought that one up, and so we will consult with our legal counsel just to make sure.
I agree with the spirit of what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, we should not allow them to determine what the goalposts are for them to hit. we're the ones that know our student population better than anybody,
Right.
not a charter school organization, so, or charter governing board. So, anyway, I feel pretty strongly about that.
We will check in on that one and bring that past. We'll have an answer for
Okay.
you in a couple of days.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to actually ask you if you don't mind cutting and pasting your phrase and putting it in an email to us.
Free of charge, of course.
Okay, good. Excellent. All right. So these, I think the BP and AR will bring back for first reading, and the other will go to consent, if okay with you?
Okay, great.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes. So there is the manual maintenance for the 3000 series. Ms. Peterson, please.
Okay, for the 3000 series, the first one is BP 3510 Green Schools Operations, which was the policy expands best practices for environmental accountability with use of least toxic pest management practices. We're recommending that we use the CSBA sample as is. Then there's BP 3511 Energy and Water Management, which is updated from CSBA based on new state guidances. And AR 3514, Environmental Safety, there's new laws. And then the Transportation, BPAR 3540, the policy was updated to include the material that was formerly in the AR into the BP and then delete the AR. I know there was some questions. Do you want to go over some of the questions on some of these?
Well, can we do this in order? I have one very nitpicky, very quick thing on 3514.
Okay.
Super quick. And that is, I didn't mark which pages, but in one part, it talks about reducing public exposure to toxic air contaminants. And it says school bus, and it crosses out bus, and then says van drivers. The page before it has a more general reference to vehicles, and it replaces buses with vehicles, and it's talking about staff and students bringing irritants and district conveyances. So I'm just wondering, it's a little inconsistent there if we replace one incidence of bus with vans and the other one with vehicles. I would suggest we just go general with everything, because who knows what types of conveyances we're going to have in the future.
Okay.
So
that was 3514. Okay. Just change it to all vehicles.
Yeah, it's the second incidence of, it says school, right now it reads school van drivers and van replaced bus, and I think that should be vehicles.
Okay.
Or vehicle drivers, I suppose. Sorry, I told you it was going to be nitpicky. But.
That's okay. That's good for consistency.
Okay, and now on to the more substantive matters.
Maybe. On BP 3510, it talks about food waste composting, and I'm wondering if we now have that at every site?
We do.
Okay. And any news on how the food share table went at Ocean Shore?
We just did a pilot. Lori did a presentation for the board last spring, and we just piloted at Ocean Shore, and it went really well. The food share table went really well. They had a school assistant monitoring the basket, and they kind of just checked on what was expiring and what could go back and be used in the kitchen. Some items were able to go to the office for the school assistants and secretaries to use as snacks. So it went very well. She's going to be meeting with her kitchen staff next week, and we can see where we want to expand.
So are we leaving it up to the school sites if they want to?
Well, to have that conversation and see where we have the staffing and the capacity and how much food is being wasted.
Okay.
So we'll ask her for an update as she starts off with this school year.
Okay. I also have just a general question about unused cafeteria food items. What happens to lunches that are not eaten, and are they, I don't know, reused into mystery food, or do they just get tossed out or composted, or
Yeah, I did talk to her about that, and she doesn't feel like there's a lot of waste. She's able to review just kind of some more information for you. She's able to review the production sheets based on what they produced and what was actually, it's about 15 to 20 meals a day. But to answer your question, if it's something that can be reused, then it is put back in the kitchen and reused. Otherwise, you're right, it does get thrown away. I know, like, if there's pizza days, in the past I've seen where they, at the last lunch, they'll actually let the kids eat them. Those pizza never goes to waste, actually.
Right,
I shouldn't have even brought up that example, but she felt there was very little waste, and they try to use what they can back in the kitchen. She doesn't really have a very strong automated system right now for tracking that. If it's something we want to do, we'd have to create something electronic. Right now, she's manually reviewing what the kitchen ladies write on their production sheets and what's actually served.
Okay. The other thing that she and I talked about is that there is just a small buffer that they build because they're not absolutely certain that they have the right count, right? And we don't want a student to get there and not have.
Right.
So we could probably be more accurate in our counts, and it would help if they happened earlier in the morning.
Do you know if the resource center can take food that's already been
Yes.
produced or heated or stuff like
Well,
that? In other words, leftover meals that have already been, that can't be put in back into the inventory?
I don't
Can
know
any of
about,
that go
I
there?
don't know if that can go to the resource center. We don't have that quantity and right
Okay.
now the capacity to transport.
They would probably have to pick it up if they can
Yeah.
even legally do it.
Yeah, I didn't know if since it had already been cooked or
You know, I
produced,
read
whether they could do that.
I read some article, and I have a feeling it was somewhere ridiculous like Facebook, and I had told Heather about it, and then I couldn't find it again. But there was some school that was able to package and then, I guess, put it out. But then I was thinking, well, then we're going to be paying extra for packaging. I mean, it's one of those weighing again, the extra cost and.
For
Or
us, the
something
cost
like
would
that.
be employee time.
Yeah.
You know, the packaging piece, if it were completely legal, I don't think the packaging piece would be the expense. It would be our biggest expense in almost everything we do is
It's
the
the
labor.
employee. Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, something to think about.
Something they could take home on a Friday, you mean?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And then my final question was on BP 3511. Reference to the district progress in meeting conservation and resource management goals. And my question was, do we have conservation and resource management goals?
Very general. We look at our energy usage and, like, you know, we talked about water and we want to reduce. We don't have a very robust, specific plan with specific goals or the staff that could actually go out to implement and provide professional development to reach, like, the teachers and the students. And so we do not have a very strong detail.
So then it's funny to me that we have that in this policy if we're not really implementing it, or we don't really have the goals. I don't know how anyone else feels about it. It just always hits me as funny when we say we're doing something, but we're not really doing this. So I just question that particular.
Do you want us to take it back and look at a closer to reality goal?
I think so. I hate to think of having this, just sort of this fake policy that we hope to do.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
I'm kind of also wondering how this overlaps with the discussion that we had in public comment today.
Yes.
Right? That's kind of an obvious overlap there. I think the AYSO people were pretty concerned.
Just curious about that group. Do they pay any type of fee for use?
I'm happy to answer that question. Yes, absolutely they do. So there are kind of three levels. Is one that we enter into a contract with them around Odstead. So they care for Odstead. I'm not certain that there's a fee associated with that one. So they take care of Odstead, we provide the water for that. Then for IBL and Ortega, they pay facilities use fees. So there's like a field fee.
Because I quickly looked up that organization. It's a national organization.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's very well. So, Kai, I mean, really, honestly, in this town, fields matter a whole ton, and it's because the city doesn't own a lot of fields,
Right.
and, you know, the baseball and soccer, girls softball up at Cabrillo are all very, very important.
I was just curious.
Yep.
Can I clarify the 3000 series? So we'll make a minor revision to AR 3514 with vehicles. We're going to hold off on the 3511 and bring it back after we're able to give it some more thought. Do we want to bring them back all together, or do you want me to bring them back, the ones that do not have any further questions, and just hold off on the two?
I think you could, I would prefer if you just brought back the ones that we requested changes to.
Okay, so we'll be 3514 and 3511.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Okay. 14C, AR 4261.1, personal illness, injury leave, March 2019 manual maintenance, first reading. Ms. Gavidia.
So, thank you. This is a repeater of the first reading. We had brought this in June and had a pretty, I think, robust discussion about the options. There was a clerical error where we hadn't actually stricken through some of the options that were not in effect. And so this is a corrected version of that. And this policy that's presented to you today has the correct options that align with our practices.
Discussion? None? Suppose we are ready to vote on this one, right?
No, it comes
Or
back
not?
on consent.
Oh, no, it comes back for consent next time. Okay, sorry, it's just being rude. Okay. Wow, we are at the end here. 15 future agenda items.
So, on your page is future agenda items. Are there any topics you'd like us to?
Why are back to school nights all on the same night?
So we actually, as we were planning, the principal signed up for it, and we looked at where there was conflict, and because IBL was a separate one, that we didn't know that many families that went to, like, so most K-8 families, the kids come in. So is your concern with the families?
But most don't necessarily continue. There's quite a few people who have a younger sibling at one of the K-8s, and maybe their sixth grader decided to go to IBL.
But IBL's another month.
Right, but IBL's
another month even.
Right, but I don't know, it'll be interesting to see what the feedback is.
Okay.
Because that's why in the past, they always kind of staggered them, so that if people there's even people that have, somebody at Sunset Ridge, and then their kid got into Cabrillo, and you know what I mean? So, and that's doubly hard if you have a single parent.
Right, absolutely.
So I just didn't know if this was it just felt like it was easier to have back to school night for the staff all on the same night, or what drove this decision?
Oh, it
Because
was
it's just very different.
it was definitely the desired day, as the schools, the teachers and the principals just want to kind of go out from the gate with that. But when we talked about it, we didn't see it as being a big conflict because of the difference with IBL being at a different school. So we certainly can, at this point, it would be hard to change, but
Right.
but we're
think they
certainly
should
open to
just-
feedback.
Yeah, if they could just be aware to see, if this is, how this shakes out.
Yep,
Maybe
yep.
it's okay going forward. I just was really surprised when I looked and thought.
I actually did not realize that it was, I remember having a discussion, and they said, well, should we talk about who gets what night? And then we said, okay, where are the conflicts? And because Sunset Ridge's biggest feeder is to IBL, and with Ortega being on different nights.
So my question is, how does it work with cleanup? Do we have a dedicated custodian at each one of these?
Each custodian, each school has.
Just wanted to make sure, because otherwise it would be really hard for.
Yes, it would be.
One of them has 2 or even 3 schools to work at.
So then whatever the feedback is, I would encourage thought about open house at the other end.
Okay.
Because again, in the past, it was
It's often
staggered.
They're staggered, sometimes there's 2 at a time.
Right,
Yeah.
right, maybe 2, but.
Because there's not enough days in a week.
I don't, again, when it occurred to me that they're all on the same day, in August, I did actually look at that, and I think that is more scattered.
Okay, all right, thank you.
A couple things that we have to put on the agenda is September 18th. We may be looking at some workforce housing, so I don't know where we are in that timeline around that, but that would make that a really big night. There is a request for a presentation from the Library Advisory Council, and that would be on September 18th. I probably will not put both the workforce housing and library advisory, so they were tentatively scheduled for this meeting, and I missed that. The other is that we have to elect an assistant clerk at the August 28th meeting, so let's put that on the agenda. We believe that at the August 28th that we'll be bringing a very 1,000 unit Chromebook order to you. There are some devices that expire in October, and we want to make sure that we get that filled. Any other items you'd like for discussion?
So I'm not sure if this goes on the next one, but it's something that's sort of been in the back of my head a little bit, and that is I'm interested in to what extent we have a digital divide in this district, and in particular, I'd like to know to what extent technology at home is required to get your homework done, and might there be difficulty for lower socioeconomic status? And what sort of plugged this is I read something just recently about talk at the federal policy level about allowing individual low-income families to apply for E-rate.
Oh.
Right? It's not an official policy yet, but there's policy talk about that, and that sort of just flashed my mind. I was sort of thinking, well, to what extent do we have this problem here, right? And it would be surprising if we do have it. And the other thing that made me flash on it is the new, the new science curricula has online stuff. So is there a portion of our student population that would not be able to access that from home because they just don't have it? Of course, they can go to a library, but libraries aren't open at like 9 o'clock at night when they come home from soccer practice or whatever and have to do their homework. So, Mr. Lucy.
I know this is a small sample size, but the history social science that we adopted previous year had a online component. So one of the concerns was that we had a textbook that was, there was a hard-bound textbook, and then there was the online version that you could do it online. So there was concern and amongst the schools that there might be, so the various teachers surveyed, within their classrooms, they knew if somebody would request it, and there was actually a very minimal amount of students that asked for the textbook to take the textbook home. Not asking them if they had, not delving into reasons why. It's like, who needs a textbook to take with them home? And there was a minimal amount. Now, I don't know if that's history, social studies, so.
Well, also, you're not really sure if that's a good proxy, because some of them might just not be doing their homework at all.
I think we have to be just a little bit careful about this, because we're talking about future agenda items and we're doing business here, so that,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay, no,
I
it's
just wanted to bring it up.
It's not appropriate for us to answer the question on that one. Let's bring it back. We would really like to bring you some information around and are still kind of developing tech plan, because right now we have a digital divide within our district, inside the classrooms of our district, and our K2 have very little access to devices consistently. They tend to more go to a computer lab, and so I don't know the timing of that, but within the next few meetings, we will bring to you some work. And there's also multiple people that are interested in the digital divide piece at home. So,
okay, great. So,
Okay, so.
Multiple people being.
Linda Bracchini came and talked to me and said, you know, I've worked with some kids and it really is clear on who has the device to use and be proficient with
Sure.
at home and who
Sure.
doesn't. And so I think, and when I was cleaning out some files this summer, I saw some of the work and plans that we're going into. The biggest challenge is how do you get internet access? And every day I get probably 3 emails for folks that want to meet with us. And we can use district funds to pay for internet access for families at home under a discounted rate. I don't know that we will necessarily do that, but that is that. I mean, even if we gave people the device to be able to use the access, I think we'd want to work with the city around doing that. So.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely, because the city could actually provide free Wi-Fi. If it was,
I know there's been talk of that,
Yeah.
with the city doing that in the past, so
It's
I think it's stalled out a couple years ago.
better for them to do it than for us to do
Mhm.
it.
Well, I'm glad we're discussing this.
So we will
You're-
discussing it
Not
for a
discussing.
future item. We're not
discuss it
discussing
for
a future
item. For-
future item. So I don't know the
We
timing
agreed
of
to
that.
discuss it further.
We did agree. Are you okay with it if it's a little further down the road?
Sure, as long as it's just sort of, present in people's minds. That's all I ask at this moment.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, is everybody ready?
We are.
Okay, the meeting is adjourned at 9:07.